Welcome to the Features at a Glance video for the Portfolio Tracker version 2. So I have already installed the Portfolio Tracker and now I'm opening the app. The app is it works within a browser and basically this is the setup page. This is all the various features, and you'll immediately see that this feels a lot like the spreadsheet. I am not trying to reinvent the wheel here, but I am trying to create a more robust tool that is able to be expanded on as new features are required. So this is the home page. There's settings, and there are the 3 steps: import the data, set up the review all the various strategies, and then build portfolios and the various portfolio options that sit underneath that. If we go through the settings, this is quite obvious. I typically like to look back at 10 years, to be honest. You may need to adjust these for your different locations. You can play around with that. This is all the various rules for eligibility, quit point, and incubation. Again, very similar to the spreadsheet if you have used that. If not, just play around with it, but it all should be quite clear and aligned to how Kevin teaches the course. We've got settings for the various Monte Carlo correlations and strategy ranking. I personally like return to drawdown out of sample, but there is other ranking fields that you can use. Portfolio settings, contract sizing is quite important, and we can go into how that is used, but it's useful as a kind of simple way to kind of work out how many contracts each strategy should trade on based on the market you're trading. This is the margins. Right now I'm just using MultiWalk margins, which is TradeStation. You can manually adjust them if you like, or you could update, or you could upload changes. That's up to you. You can also use initial maintenance, initial and average of the two, and you can update that, and that should work. Perfect. Snapshots is important. So this kind of keeps, I mean, I've made a whole bunch of random ones as I'm testing this, but basically the way I think about it is this is a snapshot of the portfolio. So each portfolio that you have, this is the snapshot of, these are the strategies, and these are the number of contracts you're trading for each of those strategies. You can add, you can remove if you want. It tells you which ones you want to remove, so you can make changes to the snapshot within here. But basically I would typically have a monthly snapshot, and then in the back test I would stitch those together to see how my portfolio has been trading. But right now, as you can see, I've just kind of been playing around with it a little bit, but I would make, this is live July 2026, and then I'll make live August 2026, and then I'll stitch them all together, so you can see how it's all running together. And then this is the back test manager, which basically works out, this is, again, as you stitch them together, basically what strategy you're changing, how many contracts, and what period you're trading them to. But these are just the settings. You can make different colors for custom, for statuses, and you can look at the various statuses here. You can make bulk changes to them if you would like. Export system, version control, you can reset everything, you can put some alerts, and you'll see those. That's all in the settings. Just play with it. Then the next thing is importing the data. You can configure, this goes again, this is the various strategies that are saved already in there, and the existing statuses of those strategies. You can change them if you want, but right now you can also do bulk things if you add different folders in. So you can, the way it works obviously is we leverage the MultiWalk trader, and right now all my strategies are folders within this one folder, and basically each one of them has all the various outputs that are required. EL code, equity, trade data, perfect. And so this is what I'm going to import them as. My buy and hold folder, which is, if we go into it, this is the useful, if people don't know, it's basically a very simple strategy that I apply to all markets, literally, which is buy at the start of the day and sell at the end of the day. And what it does is allows me, and I run it over each market that I'm trading. And so if I buy it in, and then I default the status to buy and hold, and then allows me to pick up those strategies and use them as ATR metrics for the markets, as well as looking at various market information. So I import the data. I could use a cutoff date, like if I wanted to change, basically cut off the date earlier than the latest, but I don't need that right now. Thank you. So the first thing I want to do is I'll scan the folders, and I'll see all the strategies. So I found 383 strategies. I've got 2 warnings. So it shows me these 2 strategies don't have the required data in them, so I'd need to rerun on MultiWalk. Then, and if I wanted to, I've got all the various folder locations, or I can open it as a text. So these are the various strategies, all the strategies that I am looking at. So if I wanted to rerun this all in MultiWalk Trader, I could copy this all in and rerun it. And so, perfect. So now I want to import the data. Very easy. Done. Oh, got a couple warnings again. So what this is showing me is that the latest date is the 27th of June, but one strategy doesn't have this end date. So you can see this strategy finished the 25th of June. So this is not up to date with all the other strategies. So you would want to rerun this. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, so then we then go into Strategy Trader. Cool. So now we've got all the various strategies that we're running, and we can basically go into them. You can open detail, and we can see how they have been performing. And each detailed strategy gives all the various views. I can check out, here's the parameters, the latest parameters, if you wanted, or you could actually get the whole code. Cool. We don't need that. We can go into the outer sample results. We can look at the various parameters that are used, and we can see how those parameters are changed over time. We can look at health monitor that I've kind of created to look at the various statuses. I should update that to be a bit clearer. A drawdown, you can look at a Monte Carlo closed trade. You can daily closed trade, different options. You can run it. Very simple. Happy days. So that's basically Kevin's spreadsheet. And you've got different options. You can look at ATR rebalancing. So basically, if if you rebalanced the number of contracts based on ATR, it's actually very useful if I go into a strategy. A NASDAQ strategy is probably the most interesting. Let's go here. So if I go into a NASDAQ strategy, you can see you got that kind of J hook view. And so if I do ATR rebalance, I can see how if you rebalance how the portfolio, this is trading one contract. This is rebalancing it. So this tells me how many contracts. Oh, it's kind of capped at 10. So then it goes down to 5 contracts, and then here, so now I'm trading 3 contracts. So I'm actually, I'd make more money because I'm trading more contracts down, here, where the volatility was lower. Here's the files. There's trade lists, win-loss streaks. Yeah, you can look at all that data. You can look at market conditions. So this kind of shows, based on the regimes, how those strategies actually performed. So, in the last year, where it's been low vol, high vol's kind of gone really well. Calendar effects. Again, you can play with it. Looks at how the status of the strategy have changed, if you've gone from past to whatever, live, to then back down. This is a market summary. You can get into the various markets, correlations in markets, ATR of the markets. But back to the strategy. I haven't gone through this quite yet, but you can click on them, and like you've got some new strategies here. You may decide, okay, well, I want to select these all, and then I'm gonna put them all as past. So now they're all just going to change to pass. You can look at all the eligible strategies. You can filter on different things. So you can filter this, and you can, okay, I only want to look at that. So now I'm just looking at these strategies. You've got re-optimizations for the various strategies. And you can add different columns. So if you want to add a different column from the data, it's very easy to add it, take away. Perfect. Contract sizing is useful. You can go through and you can look at how this formula works, basically looking at calculating a dollar risk based on ATR and margin, and then contracts based on your equity, a percentage of your equity and the dollar risk, and then it basically creates the number of contracts. Now that's going to change with the different number of with the different markets, but like right now it floors at 1, but if we allow micros, which is what happens, is it should adjust. So now it's 0.1. So now your NQ becomes 0.1 because we're allowing micros. So if it's a micro, if you allowed micros, then you would only trade 1 micro based on these features, these inputs. You got an eligibility rule tester. This kind of shows you how each of the some eligibility rules work, and how they and what kind of eligibility rules are performing the best. So you can play with that. You could then also construct portfolios. It's quite simple, but you could basically construct portfolios, and you can run a back test based on the different portfolios with these eligibility. You can rate equally by contracts, max strategies, ranking if you're going to not use max strategies. So you can kind of see how a portfolio would have worked. Live back tests. So this basically looks at if you want to run your various snapshots. So basically, I would set this up as each month. What was I trading, and set and each of these is a snapshot of what you were trading each month, and then they'll pull together a basically a back test. It's fantastic. That's pretty cool. Strategy comparison. You can compare different strategies. That's a pretty bad one to look at. But yeah, you can add various strategies and see how they're performed. Different periods, different metrics, heat maps, trade distribution, correlations. Then we are now going to do portfolio optimizers. This is the coolest, newest feature, which is actually with this. This is kind of a simplified view of how I think about setting up a portfolio, but with all of Kevin's lectures and teachings, how I think about setting up a portfolio is basically a constrained optimization where you have a number of constraints that you are trying to build a portfolio within. And so that could be building it within correlation limits, building it with Monte Carlo, building it with like rules around eligibility and ranking and contract sizing. So what I have here is all these different rules, and you can change the order of how they operate. And then each of these rules have options, and you can play with these options. Here's the filter. Here's your contract sizing. Here's your metric, like how you're going to. I love a return to drawdown as a sample. Here's how you're going to rank. Here's how you're going to select the various strategies. So greedy is kind of taking the best ranked, and randomized is basically putting a number of trials together and then seeing what works best with some randomization. You can look at how margin is used, peak versus static, and so it's basically trying to so they're not using too much margin at any one point in time. You can set max strategies, correlation limits. How Kevin teaches is a dual correlation limit of 0.7. You can apply sector correlations, so how much margin on average is used in each sector or symbol. Drawdown of each strategy and strategy, single strategy and average strategy drawdown. Exposure limits, so largest losing trade might be 2%. Average losing trade and largest losing trade might be, let's say, 5%. That would be annoying, but whatever. You can add different other things. Max out sample drawdown. We can put that in. And Monte Carlo target. Right, so we can play with that, but basically we run it. And it should work eventually. So you can see how it steps through. So it actually produces how many based on your, based on your I mean, the most important thing is your account equity, and the number of strategies actually determined what strategies you should be trading. I should probably make sure that it cannot use buy and hold strategies, but that's that's fun. I will fix that in the next version. but basically it tells you, okay, this is if you can use macros and macros are available, and it makes sense, then you can use it. But yeah, it's come up with a portfolio that is pretty interesting. You can kind of see this efficient frontier, but I don't know how. It then goes through how it kind of came up with everything, so you can see the kind of logic. It looks at the margin breakdown. You can then apply. So this is me applying it, and then I could add. Let's say this is August 2026. I'm gonna. So you'll see that it kind of comes in as August. So now we can apply it. So yeah, so you can compare this based on what the optimizer has told you. You can actually compare it to your existing portfolio, and then so if I had a different portfolio set up and I ran the optimizer, I could then compare this, and then it would kind of give me suggestions on what to do instead of just taking in the whole portfolio as it is. So yeah, so it tells me what to do. Now we can analyze this portfolio, so we can do Monte Carlo. We can look at the correlations. It's a bit. We can look at the portfolio backtest, the visualizer, how it all. So it gives you a few options, but we can just go into build portfolio and can kind of see these a bit better. So now we've got those 41 strategies because I've added up, and I can see how this portfolio has operated. Again, you can go through and edit contracts if you want. You could add columns, filters. You can still look at individual strategies and see how they're operating. So this is doing okay. Had a bit of a drawdown, but it's still less than the max drawdown over here. And then you have all these various, I don't know what that was, but you have all these various options. And so you can see, if you sum up the, the 10 and 1 year together, you have all these various correlations, and you can see nothing's greater than the 0.7, which was one of the criteria that I put when I put the portfolio optimizer through. We can look at the diversification. You can see how it's created a fairly diversified portfolio, different symbols, different sectors, time periods. It loves the daily. We can do leave one out analysis. So this is looking at this is an analysis that basically sees the contribution of each strategy it has to portfolio by leaving one of them out. So you can see how each strategy is contributing to the portfolio. We can look at the portfolio backtest. We can look at how much margin you need. So we can look at the max drawdown, the peak margin, required balance. And if you're trading this with 100k, you could definitely do that. It shows you how much margin on average you need per symbol, and so like how much on average each symbol is using margin. So you can see it's pretty even across. You can look at daily market. You can look at the kind of heat map of the margin requirements. Obviously, I'd be concerned. The rolling average is a bit tapered because there's some incorrect 0 days, but I might play with that. We can look at the position of out of the 41 strategies. Only one strategy was actually in position at the time this ran. So this is useful. That I find this a useful check when I look at my portfolio, my live portfolio. If I look at my live portfolio, it's very useful to see how the latest version of your multi-walk trader run reconciles to your live positions. So on a Monday, every day, every week, I'd rerun this to make sure that what multi-walk is saying is kind of lining up to what this is saying, what the TradeStation is saying. You can look at various stress scenarios. So you can look at different stress scenarios. Let's look at the 2022 rate hike. You can add scenarios if you want. And just shows you how the portfolio would have managed. You can compare to a benchmark if you want. You could set the benchmark up here and how it would work. You can do drawdown. You can look at your diversificator. I'm sure people understand what that diversificator is. You can just run it. It takes not that long. You can compare. You can compare the portfolio. Like if this is what I was going to run, you can compare the portfolio to your previous version to kind of tell you, okay, these are the new strategies to add, these are the ones to remove, and these are the ones where you need contract changes. So if I'm setting up a new month and want to create a new portfolio, I can just compare my new portfolio to the last month's portfolio, and it'll tell me all the actions I need to do to kind of set the portfolio up. Here's the snapshots of the portfolios, as we were kind of talking about before, and you can click it, and then you can actually make changes if you want, add or remove strategies. We can look at the portfolio visualizer to get an understanding of the various margin and max, add a sample, etc. That you can just get a sense of how the portfolio is operating. Again, we've got contract sizing again because it's useful. You can also apply these contracts to the portfolio if you want. So look, there's a lot of features. It does mirror a lot of the spreadsheet. So if you've used the spreadsheet, which I do provide as well, if you're old school, it's important to but the portfolio optimizer and a few other things, and you can see how quick and easy everything is, and all the features and the savings of it even saves statuses, like how a strategy has changed statuses throughout the period, and then just using this, you can even get statistics within the columns. Like this is the way to progress this tool. Spreadsheets have a lot of limitations, but they are friendly because people are used to them. But this allows me to make changes and to really quickly adapt and respond to people's requests for further things. So I really hope you guys use this and enjoy this tool. I'm really excited about launching this version 2. It's been something that I've always wanted to do since, and now with the AI and Claude Code, it became possible to create something like this, where it's not. Anyway, thank you again for your support. Thank you again for your continued contribution to this tool. Obviously, thanks to Dave, whose product has inspired this tool and whose this product leverages and uses. So always a shout out to Dave, and continue developing MultiWalk so that we can trade and do more interesting and new and cool things. Thank you.